Okay, till now we have seen how to write Selenium scripts. Okay, we have seen so many examples over here in different classes. Right. Now we will be now focusing on how to write test cases. Selenium is a tool which will only interact with the browser. Okay, right. For example, if this is your browser, then Selenium will have commands, okay, with which you can simply control the browser. Okay, you cannot build test cases. You have no sources with which you can actually go forward and generate reports. No reports, nothing. Okay, but in real time you have scenarios where maybe you are given say 500 manual test cases and you need to automate them. Alright, so how do you do this? Okay, so let me explain you in a nutshell, right, that when you work practically, what happens? Fine, you have say uh, you have few test cases which have to be executed. Okay, right. So maybe this is say test case 1 and test case 2. Okay, test case 3. Alright, test case 4. Right. Maybe you want to execute serially. Maybe you want to execute them parallelly. Okay. Or sometimes you have a requirement that you have to execute few of the test cases. You don't want to run maybe all the tests. Okay, you just want to run few of the tests. Maybe you want to run test case 1 and after that 3 and 4 and you want to skip test case 2. Okay, right. And apart from this, you want that you need to have some reports generated. Okay, some reports. Okay, these can be HTML reports. These should be having screenshots in them. Okay, right. And the errors and all, everything should be displayed very nicely so that they can be presented to the client as well. Okay, apart from this, you have your data. Okay, the data may be lying in some text file, maybe in some JSON file or XLS file or properties file or even database. Sometimes you want to get the data from the database. Alright, and then maybe you would want that some logging should happen in the scripts when the scripts are running. Logging means that everything should be jotted down, maybe in a file. Suppose scripts are running for 5 hours and you don't know that what happened in say some test case. Why did it fail, or why did it pass, or what was the conditions over there. Okay, so you type logs. So okay, script logs, and that have to be done. Okay, now maybe you would want to connect to Jenkins. Your script should be running on Jenkins. It's a continuous integration system. We will be studying that very soon. Okay, or maybe you would want to connect it to GitHub. Okay, right, and run the scripts from GitHub. Right, or you want to integrate Selenium Grid into this whole system, that is the test cases should be running parallelly. Okay, Selenium as a tool will not provide all these features which I just talked about. Selenium will have just the commands which will be interacting with the browser. Okay, right, Selenium will be having commands to interact with the browser. It won't provide you all this facility which I just talked about. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we manage this? Okay, we manage this with the help of a centralized controller. This centralized controller can be the TestNG framework, which we'll be studying about right now. Sometimes people also use JUnit, or sometimes people also use BDD frameworks like Cucumber is there, and you have JBehave. Okay, there are many BDD frameworks available, but Cucumber is very famous these days. Serenity has also come, it's become a lot famous. So in this training right now we'll be covering TestNG. In the pre-recorded videos I have covered Cucumber as well and JUnit as well. Okay, so what these centralized controllers they do, they actually uh, read the data from the Excel file. Okay, they call the test cases correspondingly, serially or parallelly. Okay, they help in skipping the test cases as well if you want to skip few of the test cases, right? Then the centralized controller helps in logging, generating reports, okay, and connecting the whole framework to Jenkins, GitHub, and configuring with Grid. Okay, now this is a structure of the complete end-to-end framework. Okay, TestNG is also a framework. Okay, and the whole thing which we made, okay, this complete thing in the outer box is also known as a framework. There are many ways to implement this. Each way is a different framework, like data-driven, hybrid, page object model. Okay, right. So using TestNG framework, all right, we using TestNG framework, we end up making many other types of frameworks like a data-driven framework, okay, hybrid framework. The design which I told you earlier is a generic approach, okay, to accomplish or to accomplish the goal of executing multiple test cases, say 500, 600. We design different frameworks like data-driven framework, hybrid framework, page object model, right? Okay, so we'll be studying one of them in the training, okay, and the remaining you can also cover from the videos which we have, because it's going to take me at least 1 hour, or sorry, 8 hours, 8 to 9 hours to cover one type of framework. Okay, now let's start with TestNG. All right, to start off with TestNG, well, the first thing is that you need to install TestNG. Okay, I'll just go to Google. TestNG is installed as a plugin in Eclipse. Alright, you just write over here TestNG Eclipse. You have to install it as a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay, and install the plugin. Okay, and okay, this is the URL. Okay, you copy this URL from this place. Okay, open Eclipse, go to help. Inside Eclipse, go to help, install new software. Okay, and you can install plugins. There is Android plugin for Eclipse which you can install from there. There are different plugins in Eclipse which you can install from here. Whatever plugin you need to install, that will be done from here. So you paste the URL over here in enter. My Eclipse is slow. Okay, and hit the enter button. So when you hit the enter button, it will fetch some results. It will take some time, and after some time you will be seeing TestNG written over here. Okay, then click on the checkbox and click on next, next. Your Eclipse will restart. Okay, and after restarting, you will have TestNG installed. It is fetching many things right now, it's quite heavy. So I'll close this, but you need to install it in this way. You'll have to wait for some time, then after some time TestNG would be written after 5, 10, 15 minutes maybe. Okay, and then you can check out whether it's installed from Windows, show view. Okay, go to other, right, and under Java you should be having TestNG mentioned over here. That means it is configured. Okay, right, so Windows, show view, other, and other, and under Java you should have TestNG. Okay, right. Now how about the features of TestNG? There are a lot of features in TestNG. You can build test cases, you can do a lot of things. Okay, so let us study them, and I'll just make a new Java project. Okay, and I'll call it TestNG tutorial. Okay, and right. Okay, so this is the project, and okay, this is the source folder in which I'll just make a new package known as test cases. Fine, and inside it I'm going to make different test cases, like I'll call it as, say, by a mobile phone test. Okay, right. Now in TestNG there is no main function. This is the Java file, but we will have no main function inside it. There are annotations. Okay, we have annotation like @test. Okay, and public void, say, search phone. Okay, right. So this @test is an annotation. It will show you error. You'll have to move the mouse over the error, and you will see the option to add TestNG as a library in your project. Okay, for example, Java JRE system library. This is Java which is installed on your system, which is added as a library in the project. Okay, similarly, TestNG will be added as a library in the project. You can add it, and then it has got nothing, but it has got, if you expand this, it has got few TestNG jar files. Okay, right, and then you can import the test annotation. Alright, so when you write @test, then for Eclipse this becomes a test case. Okay, and you can simply write inside it system.out.println searching for a phone. Fine. Okay, and you right click on this Java file and you can simply run as TestNG test, and you will see that, hold on, okay, you need to right click on the Java file and you'll get the option run as TestNG test, and you will see that searching for a phone is printed. It says that total test runs are 1, failures are 0, and skips are 0. Okay, and right, and you will have a new tab, results of running the class. Since TestNG is installed as a plugin, it gives you a pictorial representation over here as well, that under by mobile phone test there was a test case search phone, which is the name of the function. Okay, this name of the function will be available over here. Okay, right, so it gives you that option. Fine. Now if you refresh the project, right click on this, just a minute. Oh my, sorry. If you right click on it, you will get the option to refresh, F5. You will see a test output folder. In the test output folder, default TestNG HTML reports are generated. Okay, Index.html has the main report. If you right click on index.html, then you will see the option to open it with HTML editor or web browser. You open it with a web browser and it will open with an Eclipse. Okay, hold on. This is not a very efficient report. Okay, like you cannot see, you can clearly see that it's not a very good report with very good UI, right? You cannot show it to the client as well. Okay, so we don't use these reports, but these are the default reports which are generated with TestNG. Okay, we don't go in for these reports, we go in for extent reports. Extent reports are better reports, we will see that later on, right? Okay, now coming back to TestNG, so when you run the test in the console, you will see the total test cases runs, failures, skips. In this tab, you will see the results of running the test cases in a pictorial format. This is very good. Alright, now you can have multiple test cases. Public void, say select phone. You can have multiple test cases. Inside the test cases, you can write your Selenium code as well, right? And then you can have public void checkout, okay, in which you can say checking out. Okay, and when you run this, you can also run it from here once you have run it as a TestNG test. So it will say total test cases runs are 3, passes are 3. In the results of running the test case, you will see 3 test cases have executed, but the checkout test is mentioned in the first, search phone is mentioned second, and select phone is mentioned as third. This is not what we were wanting. We were wanting the other order, that is search phone obviously should come up first. If you look at the console output as well, then searching for a phone comes first, sorry, checking out comes first. So the order is not from top to bottom, it is got its own ordering mechanism of test cases. Don't think that the test cases will be run from top to bottom. The expectation was that, but it doesn't happen. It's got its own order of running. So what we do is that if you want from top to bottom, you have to prioritize the test case. You have to write over here priority equals to 1. Okay, then priority equals to 2, priority equals to 3. So this way you can prioritize your test cases, that these are 3 test cases and I want to run them one after another like this. So when you run this now, you will see that searching, selecting, and then checking out. So it is running from top to bottom. Okay, so you have to prioritize the test cases as well, right? Once you are done with this, okay, you would want to do some validations as well. Suppose you have to fail a test case. How do you fail a test case? In TestNG. Alright, so you should be knowing about that. Fine, I'll make a new class over here known as validations TestNG. Okay, now how do you have validations, or just validations.java, right? How do you have the validations? Okay, suppose you have a test case @test public void, say validate or something, just giving some name. Okay, import the test annotation, right? Now the thing is that you have to, when you are into testing, you have an actual value, some actual value is there and some expected value is there. You have to compare them. Generally this happens in testing. Okay, actual value is something which will come up from the application with the help of Selenium. Maybe get the title of the page like driver.getTitle. The expected value, we can keep it in some external file like Excel file or a properties file, something like this. Okay, the expected, say maybe the expected title of the web page, you can keep over there, and actual title you are extracting through Selenium. So we have to compare both of them and pass or fail the test case. In TestNG we have a class known as assert. Assert class is something which is there for validations, right? For example, if you write assert dot, you will get a function known as assert equals from org.testng.assert. okay, everything inside this class, the class will be imported as well. Make sure you import the assert class from TestNG. Sometimes it gets imported from JUnit. Okay, JUnit is also inbuilt in Eclipse. It's a testing framework similar to TestNG, so don't do it from there. Okay, make sure it is imported from here, and everything inside this class is static in nature. Okay, this function over here, assert equals, is a static function. That is why you are able to call it directly with the class name, and you can provide the actual and expected values over here, and if the values don't match, then it will fail the test case. Okay, for example, I'll write ABC and ABC, both the places I'm writing ABC. So when you run this, this will execute the validate test. Okay, and it is passing, right? But if I put some other value in expected, okay, and I run this, it will say total test runs are 1 and failures are 1. Alright, fine, and it will present the failure exception. The expected was ABCX but was found ABC, failed the test, and in the results you will see it in blue color. That means the test has failed. Okay, so assert equals function will actually fail the test case. Okay, if the values don't match. There is another validation function, okay, that is assert dot assert true. Now, what is this assertion function? You have to give some condition and some message. A condition should be having an output like true or false, right? For example, I'll write 3 greater than 2, and this message is nothing but this is some error message which you can write, your own custom error message. Now what is this assertion? How does it work? It looks little weird. Okay, look, 3 greater than 2, this is a condition. If this condition is evaluating to true, then this assertion will pass. Okay, for example, right now it is evaluating to true. When you run this, it passes, right? Okay, but if I write 3 greater than 12, this condition will evaluate to false, and I am asserting true over here. If it evaluates to false, then this will actually fail. The test will fail, and in the output you will see error message, customer did not, okay, error message customer, whatever error message will is there will come up in the reports. Now how is this assertion used? Okay, maybe I want to check whether the element is present on the page or not. I can write assert dot assert true, and remember we had made the function is element present. You can call that function, send the XPath of the element, and if it returns you false, then you can present the error message that element not found. Something like this we can use it. Okay, that is assert dot assert true. Then you can check the presence of the element or the element is displayed. You can put some condition which should evaluate to true in case the test case has to pass. Okay, right. Opposite to this function we have another function known as assert dot assert false. This works the opposite way. Over here the condition should evaluate to false, then the test will pass. If it evaluates to true, then the test will fail, and on failing, whatever is the message you are giving will come up in the reports. So assert true and assert false are two different functions. Assert true wants that the evaluation of the this particular condition should be true. Okay, right. Assert false wants the evaluation of this particular condition should be false. Okay, right. Then sometimes you are very sure that the test has failed. You have to fail the test case. For example, you get a 404 error. Okay, or suddenly you log out of the application, you are logged in and suddenly you log out, or the application crashes. You are very sure that the test case has to be failed. So if you want to fail the test case without any validation, without any condition, you can do that. You can simply write assert dot fail. Okay, sorry. You can simply write assert dot fail and you can give some failure message over here. Okay, you can give some failure message as well over here. Alright, so when you run this, the test will fail, and in the results you will see some failure message will come up. Okay, so you can do the validations like this. Alright, now the problem with these assertions is that okay, they stop the program. For example, I am in assert equals. Okay, and I print over here system.out.println. I print A, and after this I print B. When I run the program, the test will fail because both of these values they don't match. Fine. When I'm running it, it has failed. Okay. But if you look at the output, only A is printed and B is not printed. This assertion, if it fails, it stops the complete flow. Abruptly the program will come to an end. Sometimes you would want that fine, you just report the error, but the error is not so critical. The test case should keep on running. Okay, right? So because suppose the title of the web page is not matching, there is some error mistake in the title, you would want that fine, you report this in the reports, but you carry on with the test case. But if you have a critical error like say some link is not present on the web page, some button is not present, you would want to say simply fail the test case and stop the test case, then you can use this assertion. But if you have some soft error, then you cannot do that. To do that, we have got soft assertions. Okay, I'll make a new class known as soft validations. Okay, you can also do this in TestNG, that you can carry on the test case and maybe report the errors in the end. Maybe you can report multiple errors in the test case. Okay, I'll just make a function validate, and I'll print say A over here. Then for soft assertions we have a class known as soft assert. You create the object of that class. Okay, and then you can use the assertion functions. For example, soft assert dot assert equals, you can compare ABC with ABC, right? Then maybe you can compare ABC with XYZ, right? Then maybe you can compare ABC with ABC1. Then you can write soft assert dot assert true, right? Condition 3 greater than 1, right? And you can give some, the functions are same, assert equals and assert true and all. Okay, right? So you can have multiple validations. Only those validations which will fail, okay, will come up in the reports, right? So this is going to pass, this is going to fail, this is going to fail, and this is going to pass, and this is going to fail. So we would want that these three failures should come together in the report, but the script should not stop. Okay, if I am printing B in the end, then A and B should be printed. The script should not stop in between. Okay, so when you run this code, you will see that it runs, A and B are printed, but failures are coming out as 0. We wanted 3 failures. This is because in case of soft assertions, it is mandatory to write in the end soft assert dot assert all. This line is very important. Okay, when you run this code, you will see that now the test has failed, and it will present you 3 errors. Expected XYZ but found ABC, expected ABC1 but found this, and error message 2. Okay, you can have multiple failures reported in a single test with the help of soft assert. The other assertion, you can say the hard assert, will simply validate it and terminate the program if some major error has come up. Okay, right? So this was about validations, assertions, the assert class and the soft assert class. Alright, now in the soft assert, this line is very important to write in the end. Now sometimes you have, hold on, sometimes you have to skip the test case deliberately. Okay, right, suppose you want to skip the select phone test. Okay, right, so how will you skip this? You don't want to run it. Okay, so how do you skip the test cases? To skip the test case, you simply can write throw new skip exception. Skipping the test, something like this. You import it. You deliberately throw this exception. Okay, right. So when you run this line will show an error. Okay, because you are skipping the test case, throwing an exception. So Java says that why are you writing the next line when on this line you are skipping the exception? Right. So generally what we do is that we keep a flag, something like this. You can keep a flag, true or false. Okay, and boolean flag. Right. And you can keep a condition like if flag, then you can skip the test case. So Java will not throw an exception, throw the error over here because you are skipping on some condition. Now this flag we generally read it from the Excel file. Okay, this flag we generally read it from the Excel file. In the Excel file we keep the test case, we keep the list of test cases, and we mention that which one has to be executed, which one should not be executed. Based on that we have the flag. Okay, and what we do is based on the flag we throw the exception. Alright, so when you run this test, all the three tests will run and you will see that in the results of running the test, the select phone test is yellow in color. It has skipped. Yellow means it will skip. Skipping the test, whatever line you are writing over here. Okay, right, we will get it over here. So this flag practically is read from the Excel file. In the Excel file, what we do is that we keep the test cases like this. For example, test case 1, the flag we'll keep yes, it has to execute. Test case 2, the flag we'll keep no, it should not be executed. Test case 3, it has to be executed. So the test cases which will have the flag no will be skipped. So we write the code which reads this flag from the Excel file, and basically based on the flag we skip the test cases. So we'll do that in framework, but I'm just telling you right now. So this is the command which will help you to skip the test cases. Okay, right. But practically if you look, then this thing select phone test case, okay, it will, if it has skipped, okay, if the select phone test has skipped, then obviously the checkout test should not be executed. Practically these three test cases are there. These are dependent on each other. If this test case is skipped, then this one should not execute. Okay, if I keep the test case flag as false and run it, then all three are running. This is fine. Or say the first test case, which is search phone, I fail it. I write over here assert dot fail. I put up some error message in it. Fine. And I run it, so the first test will fail. The first test is failing, but the next two test cases in the same file, they are executing. So this should not be the case. Okay, so these three are dependent test cases. You can inject dependency between the test cases. Alright, you can write over here, comma, depends on methods, and you can give the method name search font. Okay, that this is the method on which this test case is dependent. Then you can write depends on method. This one is dependent on both of them. So you can inject the dependency of the test cases in the same class. Okay, the checkout is dependent on both of them. Alright, and when you run this, now if the first one is failing, the other two will be skipped. Okay, in case the first one doesn't fail, the other two will run fine. In case the select phone is skipped, the second test case I am skipping, then the first one case executes, the second one skipped because the flag was true. If the flag is true, then the skip exception will come in the second one. But the third one now is dependent on the second one, so it is also skipped. So you can inject dependencies between the test cases. But this is also a very debatable topic. The debatable topic is dependent test cases. Whether we should have test cases which are dependent on each other. If you talk about, say, BDD frameworks like Cucumber is there, those guys, they literally discourage that you should never have dependent test cases. They simply say that you have to write end-to-end scenarios in a test case. Dependency between the test cases, it creates a lot of problem, especially when we have to run the test cases on Selenium Grid. Okay, sorry, just a minute, I don't know, just hold on. Alright, when we are running Selenium Grid, okay, suppose there are multiple test cases. Okay, hold on, let me explain you with the diagram. Practically, we face a lot of problems when we have dependent tests. Just a minute, this is not coming. Hold on. Suppose you have got different test cases. Okay. Now these test cases are dependent. If they run parallelly, okay, then output of one test case is dependent on the input of the other. And if they run parallelly on different machines in grid, it will create a problem. Definitely it will create a problem. So we discourage dependency between the test cases. Later on we will be also studying that how can you run these three Java files together in a serial manner or in a parallel manner. But all these three Java files should have test cases which are independent of each other. If you have dependent tests, by chance, you never know the conditions in which you can get dependent test cases and you cannot ignore that, then dependent test cases should be kept in a single file injected with this dependency. Dependent tests should always be kept in a single file. If you should always discourage this kind of a scenario where you have dependent test cases. But in case you keep them in a single file. In multiple Java files, always keep test cases which are independent of each other. You can batch run these three Java files. I haven't told you the way you can batch run them, but you can batch run these three Java files. Okay, and when you batch run them, you cannot have the dependency between them. Okay, right. So there is more to TestNG. Fine, I will be stopping here for today.